Hip-hop has seen rivalries before. Legends have clashed, diss tracks have flown, and entire eras have been defined by competition. But what just happened between Kendrick Lamar and Drake didn't just shake the culture, it may have permanently changed it. This wasn't simply about chart positions, streaming numbers, or who had the louder fan base. This was a moment that forced the entire industry to pick a side, rethink loyalty, and redefine what dominance in hip-hop actually means in 2026. For years, Drake represented consistency, commercial power, and global reach. He mastered the algorithm era before most artists even understood it. Playlist placement, viral hooks, international features. He turned music into a non-stop presence. Meanwhile, Kendrick moved differently. Strategic silence, precision drops, cultural statements that felt bigger than singles. When he released music, it wasn't just content, it was commentary. Two completely different blueprints for success, coexisting at the top of the same mountain. But recently, the tension stopped being subtle. Lines became sharper, references became clearer, performances carried extra weight. And then came the moments that made fans realize this wasn't just lyrical sparring. It was a battle over the soul of modern hip-hop. Was the culture going to continue rewarding constant output and streaming dominance? Or would it pivot back toward lyricism, narrative depth, and artistic mystique? What makes this different from past rap feuds is the speed and scale. Social media didn't just report on it, it amplified it in real time. Every bar was dissected within minutes. Every facial expression at award shows became evidence. Every silence became strategic. Fans weren't just spectators. They became analysts, detectives, and marketers, pushing narratives across TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at a pace the genre has never seen before. And here's the part no one expected. Both artists won, but in completely different ways. Drake proved he could survive controversy and remain culturally unavoidable. Kendrick proved that precision and timing could overpower sheer volume. Together, they shifted the blueprint. Artists watching from the sidelines so that you no longer have to follow one formula to dominate. You can flood the market, or you can starve it. You can be omnipresent or elusive. Both can work, but only if executed perfectly. This wasn't just a clash of rappers. It was a clash of philosophies. And whether people realize it or not, hip-hop's future just took a sharp turn because of it. When people look back at this era of hip-hop, they won't just talk about hit songs or streaming records. They'll talk about the shift. The moment the genre split into two competing philosophies embodied by Kendrick Lamar and Drake. Part of what made this rivalry so powerful wasn't just the music itself, but what each artist represented in a rapidly evolving industry. For over a decade, Drake mastered the art of saturation. He understood the streaming era better than anyone. While others focused on album cycles, Drake turned music into a constant presence. Surprise drops, calculated features, viral-friendly hooks. He engineered ubiquity. If there was a major moment in culture, Drake somehow attached himself to it. He blurred the lines between genres, collaborated across continents, and ensured that whether you loved him or criticized him, you could never ignore him. His strategy wasn't just about making hits. It was about being inescapable. Kendrick, on the other hand, built mystique. He disappeared between projects. He avoided oversharing. When he spoke, it felt deliberate. When he released music, it felt layered and intentional. Instead of flooding the timeline, he created anticipation. Fans didn't just consume his work, they studied it. His albums felt like events, not content drops. In an age obsessed with speed and volume, Kendrick leaned into patience and depth. That contrast alone created tension long before any direct shots were exchanged. The real shift began when fans started realizing that this wasn't just about two successful rappers competing. It was about two models of dominance colliding. Drake symbolized evolution with the algorithm, mastering playlists, understanding metrics, adapting his sound to global trends. Kendrick symbolized artistic resistance, staying rooted in lyricism, storytelling, and thematic cohesion. Both approaches were valid. Both worked, but they appealed to different ideas of what hip-hop should prioritize. As subliminal lines began surfacing in songs and interviews grew more pointed, the culture leaned in. Every lyric became a potential reference. Every performance felt like a statement. Social media turned into a war room. Fans clipped verses within seconds of release and debated meanings in real time. Reaction channels broke down metaphors bar by bar. The rivalry wasn't happening in isolation. It was unfolding live, with millions participating and shaping the narrative. What truly changed the game was the way perception began to rival numbers. Drake still dominated streaming platforms. His global presence remained unmatched. But Kendrick's moments felt heavier. When he responded, whether through a verse, a performance, or a subtle public gesture, it carried weight that extended beyond metrics. It sparked think pieces, academic analysis, and cultural debate. Suddenly, the question wasn't who has more hits. It became who has more impact. Younger artists paid attention. They saw two blueprints playing out at the highest level. One prioritized relentless output and adaptability. The other prioritized selectivity and depth. Instead of assuming there was only one path to the top, emerging rappers realized the lane you choose can define your legacy just as much as your talent. That realization alone shifted the strategic mindset across the genre. Another factor that changed hip-hop forever was the transparency of the battle. In previous eras, rivalries were filtered through magazines, radio interviews, and delayed television coverage. This time, everything was instantaneous. If Drake posted something cryptic, fans decoded it within minutes. If Kendrick appeared at an event, screenshots circulated globally before the night ended. The rivalry lived online 24/7. There was no cooldown period. The culture stayed locked in. This constant engagement amplified even the smallest moment. It didn't just entertain the culture. It reprogrammed it. Artists learned that branding, mystique, output, timing, and narrative management are as crucial as the music itself. Fans learned that their engagement can tilt perception, and the genre learned that two completely opposite strategies can coexist at the top until they collide. This was only the beginning. The foundation had shifted, and hip-hop would never operate the same way again. As the rivalry intensified, something deeper began unfolding beneath the surface. This wasn't just about bars traded on wax or subtle industry tension. It was about identity. Kendrick Lamar and Drake weren't simply defending their catalogs. They were defending what they believed hip-hop should represent in this era. Drake's dominance had long been tied to evolution. He absorbed sounds from Atlanta, London, the Caribbean, and beyond, blending them into a global formula that kept him ahead of trends instead of chasing them. Critics called it calculated. Supporters called it genius. Either way, it worked. He understood that in the streaming age, versatility equals longevity. If a wave emerged, Drake could ride it and often redefine it. His brand became adaptability. He wasn't boxed into one lane because he never allowed himself to be. Kendrick moved in the opposite direction. Rather than stretching across every soundscape, he dug deeper into his own. His projects felt rooted in narrative arcs, cultural commentary, and layered storytelling. When he stepped into a moment, it felt purposeful. He wasn't trying to dominate every playlist. He was trying to dominate the conversation. That difference created friction, not necessarily personal at first, but philosophical. One artist embodied expansion, the other embodied concentration. When tensions became more visible, fans started choosing sides not just based on preference, but based on values. If you believed hip-hop should prioritize lyricism, depth, and cohesive artistry, you leaned toward Kendrick. If you believed the genre should evolve fluidly, break boundaries, and remain globally accessible, Drake felt like the natural champion. The rivalry turned into a referendum on what matters most in rap culture. Then came the escalation phase, the point where subliminals felt sharper and responses felt intentional. Every new verse dropped under a microscope. Listeners weren't just enjoying songs, they were investigating them. Reaction videos exploded across YouTube. TikTok breakdowns went viral within hours. Twitter thread connected dots between lyrics from years apart. Hip-hop turned into an interactive sport, with fans acting as commentators and analysts in real time. This hyper-engagement changed how artists approach releases. Surprise drops carried strategic weight. Silence became a calculated pause rather than absence. Even interviews felt tactical. A slight tone shift or subtle phrasing could spark headlines. Both Kendrick and Drake understood the power of narrative timing. They weren't just releasing music, they were staging moments. One major shift that defined this era was the way impact began outweighing immediacy. Drake could drop a track and see instant streaming explosions. That formula remained powerful. But Kendrick demonstrated that carefully timed responses could shift the entire cultural mood overnight. A single verse, delivered at the right moment, could dominate discourse in a way that transcended numbers. The culture started asking a new question. Is longevity built on constant presence or on unforgettable moments? Younger artists watched closely. Some doubled down on high-output strategies, believing consistency keeps you relevant in an algorithm-driven industry. Others embraced the idea of scarcity, understanding that mystery can amplify demand. The blueprint for success was no longer singular. Drake proved that adaptability keeps you omnipresent. Kendrick proved that selectivity can make each appearance seismic. The industry absorbed both lessons. Another permanent change came in how fans consumed rivalry itself. In the past, beefs had build-up and cool-down periods. This time, there was no break. Social media ensured that speculation never stopped. If one artist stayed quiet, that silence became fuel for debate. If the other posted something cryptic, it trended instantly. The rivalry became a 24-hour narrative cycle. Even unrelated releases were interpreted through its lens. Award shows, festival performances, and public appearances gained heightened significance. A glance across a room, a crowd's reaction to a name mention, a subtle lyric change during a live set. Everything mattered. Every micro-moment became content. Hip-hop wasn't just about audio anymore. It was about optics. Body language, tone, and timing were dissected with the same intensity as rhyme schemes. What truly changed the genre forever was the realization that cultural power is now multidimensional. It's not enough to dominate charts if you don't shape conversation. It's not enough to gain critical acclaim if you don't command attention. Kendrick and Drake each excelled in different arenas, but their collision forced the industry to recognize that true dominance requires mastery of both perception and performance. The business side felt it too. Streaming platforms subtly curated playlists in ways fans interpreted as strategic. Media outlets framed headlines to maximize engagement. Brands watched carefully, aligning with whichever narrative felt strongest in the moment. Hip-hop became a live chessboard where moves extended beyond music into marketing, branding, and audience psychology. And perhaps the most important shift was internal. Artists realized they could no longer separate art from narrative. Every release carried context. Every move sent a message. The bar for authenticity rose because audiences were watching more closely than ever. Transparency and strategy intertwined in ways the genre hadn't fully experienced before. By this stage of the rivalry, one truth was undeniable. Hip-hop had evolved into something faster, more analytical, and more participatory than at any other time in its history. Kendrick and Drake didn't just compete within the system. They exposed how the system works. They showed that dominance isn't accidental. It's constructed, maintained, and defended in real time. And as the tension continued building, the culture realized this wasn't nearing its end. It was accelerating. The next move, that consistency created a psychological advantage. It's hard to count someone out when they never leave the conversation. His strategy was rooted in momentum. Keep moving, keep releasing, keep the algorithm fed. Kendrick, however, doubled down on precision. Instead of overwhelming the space with volume, he chose moments carefully. And when he struck, the impact felt calculated and heavy. Each verse felt like it had layers waiting to be unpacked. Fans didn't just listen, they analyzed. Think pieces dropped within hours. Influencers dissected rhyme patterns and potential double meanings. His moves felt surgical, and that perception amplified their weight. What changed hip-hop forever during this stretch wasn't just the lyrical exchanges. It was the way the culture processed them. Social media transformed into a live scoreboard. Hashtags trended within minutes of new releases. TikTok edits turned verses into viral sound bites. YouTube reactions accumulated millions of views overnight. The rivalry became participatory. Fans weren't passive listeners anymore. They were part of the ecosystem driving momentum. Another major shift was the elevation of narrative over neutrality. Media outlets, podcasts, and streamers began framing discussions in winner versus loser terms almost instantly. There was less space for middle ground. You were either Team Kendrick or Team Drake. That polarization intensified engagement. Debate fueled visibility, and visibility fueled streams. The lines between competition and marketing blurred completely. The generational impact became clear as emerging artists responded indirectly. Some began emphasizing lyrical depth and thematic cohesion in their projects, clearly inspired by Kendrick's approach. Others focused on flooding the market with singles and collaborations, reflecting Drake's blueprint. Instead of copying styles sonically, they absorbed strategies structurally. The rivalry reshaped how artists thought about career pacing. Live performances also evolved. Crowds reacted louder to perceived diss lines. Festival stages became platforms for subtle flexes. Even the way artists curated set lists felt strategic. A lyric change here, a pause there. The audience listened differently, hunting for clues and signals. Hip-hop shows became interactive spectacles where fans searched for coded messages mid-performance. Perhaps the most permanent transformation was psychological. For years, dominance in rap had often been defined by numbers alone. First week sales, chart positions, streaming milestones. Now, impact was being measured by discourse. Who controlled the timeline? Who shaped the memes? Who influenced the tone of conversation? Cultural gravity became just as important as commercial success. Drake's resilience played a key role in this shift. Despite criticism and constant scrutiny, he remained adaptable. If a narrative turned against him, he pivoted. If the conversation shifted, he inserted himself back into it. That ability to withstand waves of public opinion reinforced his longevity. Meanwhile, Kendrick's restraint demonstrated a different kind of strength. The confidence to speak only when necessary and still command full attention. The industry had to adjust to this new landscape. Labels recognized that rivalry drives engagement at unprecedented levels in the digital era. Streaming services capitalized on playlist battles and curated moments that subtly highlighted tension. Media coverage became more dramatic because drama translated into clicks. Hip-hop's competitive DNA merged seamlessly with the internet's appetite for spectacle. But beyond strategy and marketing, something deeper happened. Fans became more invested in artistic identity. Discussions expanded beyond who had the better diss track. People debated authenticity, evolution, cultural roots, and artistic integrity. The rivalry reopened conversations about what hip-hop values most in its leaders. And here's the twist. Neither blueprint fully defeated the other. Instead, they expanded the definition of success. Kendrick proved that patience and depth can still dominate a hyperactive era. Drake proved that adaptability and consistency can survive even the most intense scrutiny. Together, they stretched the genre's understanding of power. By this stage, it was undeniable. Hip-hop had entered a new phase. Competition wasn't just about lyrical superiority. It was about narrative mastery, psychological endurance, strategic timing, and cultural influence. Kendrick and Drake didn't just clash. They exposed the mechanics of modern dominance in real time. The result? A generation of artists studying not just rhyme schemes, but rollout strategies. Fans analyzing not just verses, but body language. An industry recognizing that in 2026, perception can move faster than sound. And as the rivalry continued to evolve, one thing became certain. The genre would never return to its old rhythm. The rules have been rewritten in front of everyone. By the time the rivalry entered its fourth chapter, it wasn't just shaping headlines. It was reshaping the emotional core of hip-hop. Kendrick, Lamar, and Drake had moved beyond strategic jabs and cultural symbolism. Now, every move felt legacy-defining. This wasn't about winning a round anymore. It was about cementing a final narrative that would live on long after the music stopped playing. One of the biggest changes this phase introduced was accountability. For years, superstars operated in a space where mystique protected them. But in this era, nothing lived in isolation. Old interviews resurfaced. Past lyrics were reanalyzed. Decade-old collaborations were scrutinized for hidden meaning. The internet became a time machine, pulling history into the present to frame current events. Hip-hop had never been this archival, this forensic. Drake faced pressure in a way he hadn't before, not because he lacked hits, but because the conversation had shifted from output to authenticity. Critics began questioning patterns, stylistic shifts, alliances, industry relationships. Supporters defended his evolution as proof of versatility. That debate alone marked a cultural turning point. Adaptation, once universally praised, was now being weighed against consistency of identity. Kendrick, meanwhile, carried a different weight, expectation. When you position yourself as a lyrical purist and cultural commentator, the bar never drops. Every response had to feel intentional. Every line had to justify the silence that preceded it. The pressure wasn't about quantity, it was about impact. And somehow, that restraint made his presence feel even heavier. The less he said, the louder it echoed. This chapter also revealed how deeply hip-hop now intersects with psychology. Fans weren't just comparing bars. They were analyzing body language, tone shifts, and strategic timing. If Drake released something immediately after Kendrick trended, it was labeled reactive. If Kendrick waited weeks to respond, it was labeled calculated. Timing became narrative currency. Moves weren't just heard, they were interpreted. Streaming culture amplified everything. Another permanent shift happened in media dynamics. Podcasts, live streams, and independent creators gained as much influence as traditional outlets. A viral breakdown from a YouTuber could shape public perception more than a polished magazine article. Narrative control decentralized. Kendrick and Drake weren't just battling each other. They were navigating thousands of independent commentators framing the story in real time. Live shows reached a new intensity. When certain lines played, crowds reacted with synchronized chants that felt almost tribal. Audience participation became part of the rivalry's momentum. A stadium erupting at a perceived disline wasn't just a reaction, it was a signal. Clips of those moments traveled globally within minutes, reinforcing whichever narrative felt strongest that night. Performances became data points in an ongoing cultural debate. But perhaps the most lasting transformation was philosophical. Hip-hop had always valued competition, but this rivalry forced the genre to confront what it truly values at the top. Is dominance about numbers alone? Is it about lyrical superiority? Is it about shaping culture beyond music? The answers were no longer simple. Drake represented the modern mogul, fluid, global, commercially unstoppable. Kendrick represented the cultural architect, intentional, led, rooted in message. Instead of one eliminating the other, their clash exposed how both archetypes are necessary for hip-hop's evolution. One pushes boundaries outward, the other reinforces foundations inward. Young artists studying this moment aren't just learning how to write better verses. They are learning how to move strategically. They are observing how silence can build anticipation, how overexposure can shift perception, how timing can elevate impact. The rivalry became a masterclass in career architecture. Even fans changed. Casual listeners turned into analysts. Social media users learned to dissect cadence, reference chains, and roll out patterns. The culture matured in real time. Engagement deepened beyond surface-level hype. Discussions became led, sometimes academic, often emotional. Hip-hop audiences began demanding more transparency, more authenticity, more intention. And yet, amid all the analysis, one truth remained. Both artists elevated the genre simply by refusing to back down. Competition sharpened creativity. Pressure exposed strengths and weaknesses. The back-and-forth energy pushed each side to refine their craft and their messaging. That tension injected urgency into a genre that, at times, had grown comfortable. By this stage, it was impossible to imagine hip-hop returning to a pre-rivalry state. The blueprint for superstardom had expanded permanently. Artists now understood that dominance isn't static. It's negotiated daily through music, narrative, and perception. As Chapter 4 closed, anticipation reached a new peak. The culture sensed that whatever came next wouldn't just settle a score. It would define an era. Because when two giants like Kendrick and Drake collide at full force, the aftershock doesn't fade quietly. It reshapes the ground beneath everyone watching. And hip-hop, standing at the center of that tremor, would never feel the same again. By the time this rivalry reached its final stage, it was clear that the impact extended far beyond diss lines and viral debates. Kendrick Lamar and Drake hadn't just competed. They had forced hip-hop to evolve in real time. What began as tension between two elite artists transformed into a cultural moment that redefined power, influence, and legacy in the modern era. The final phase wasn't about who delivered the sharpest bar. It was about who controlled the narrative arc. In today's landscape, perception can outweigh production. A perfectly timed release can shift momentum overnight. A strategic silence can build more pressure than a rapid response. Kendrick mastered the art of impact per appearance. Drake mastered the art of sustained visibility. Together, they demonstrated that dominance is no longer a single-lane highway. It's a multidimensional battlefield. One of the most lasting changes they triggered was how success is measured. For years, the industry leaned heavily on first-week numbers and streaming milestones as the ultimate scorecard. But this rivalry exposed a deeper metric: cultural gravity. Who moves conversation? Who commands attention without oversaturation? Who shapes the emotional tone of the genre? Streams matter, but moments matter too. Kendrick proved the power of a seismic moment. Drake proved the power of constant presence. Both metrics now coexist in evaluating greatness. Another shift was strategic transparency. Fans became more aware of how calculated the industry can be. Rollouts, playlist placements, interview timing, everything felt intentional. Instead of passively consuming music, audiences began studying the chessboard. Hip-hop transformed into an interactive arena where fans track strategy as closely as they track lyrics. That level of engagement permanently raised the stakes for every superstar moving forward. The generational ripple effect is already visible. New artists are thinking long-term from day one. They are analyzing whether to flood the market or cultivate scarcity. They are paying attention to branding as much as beat selection. Kendrick's discipline taught them the value of patience and artistic cohesion. Drake's adaptability taught them the importance of staying fluid and globally aware. The next wave won't copy their sounds. They'll copy their strategic mindsets. Live performance culture also shifted permanently. Concerts became extensions of narrative. A single lyric change could spark headlines. Crowd reactions became viral content within minutes. Festivals felt less like isolated events and more like chapters in an ongoing saga. The relationship between artist and audience deepened because fans understood they were witnessing history in real time. Perhaps the most significant transformation was psychological. The rivalry forced hip-hop to confront its own identity crisis. Is a genre driven more by commercial expansion or cultural preservation? Is evolution about absorbing global influences or about refining foundational elements? Kendrick and Drake didn't just debate those questions, they embodied them. Their clash gave the culture permission to wrestle with its dual nature. And here's the unexpected outcome. Instead of weakening the genre, the rivalry strengthened it. Competition sharpened creativity. It reintroduced urgency. It reminded fans why hip-hop thrives on tension and ambition. In an era where algorithms often flatten individuality, this battle restored unpredictability. Every drop felt important again. Every verse felt consequential. Industry structures adapted as well. Labels recognized that narrative drives numbers. Media outlets leaned into long-form analysis instead of surface-level reporting. Independent creators gained influence by breaking down developments in real time. The ecosystem around hip-hop became more layered, more analytical, and more participatory than ever before. As this chapter closes, one thing is undeniable. Hip-hop's blueprint for superstardom has permanently expanded. You can dominate through omnipresence like Drake. You can dominate through precision like Kendrick, but to truly shift the culture, you must understand both. The future will belong to artists who balance output with impact. They'll remember how this rivalry redefined expectations. They'll remember how two contrasting philosophies collided and forced the genre to level up. They'll remember the debates, the breakdowns, the viral clips, the stadium chants, the think pieces. They'll remember how hip-hop felt alive in a way it hadn't in years. In the end, there doesn't have to be a single winner for history to be made. Sometimes the real victory is transformation. Kendrick Lamar and Drake didn't just battle for dominance. They reshaped the terrain beneath everyone's feet. And because of that, hip-hop will never move the same again. Hip-hop just witnessed a moment that will be talked about for years. Kendrick Lamar and Drake didn't just trade energy. They reshaped the culture, the strategy, and the definition of dominance itself. Now the question is simple. Who really changed the game more? Was it Kendrick's precision and calculated impact, or Drake's relentless presence and global control? Drop your opinion in the comments. I want to see real debate. Don't just pick a side, explain why. If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss the next breakdown. We're covering every shift, every response, and every move as it happens. This era of hip-hop is moving fast, and the story is still unfolding. Stay locked in, because the next chapter could drop at any moment.